Dad had spent 38 years climbing the corporate ladder at Henderson Manufacturing, starting as a line supervisor and ending as regional operations manager. His retirement party was the culmination of a career he was genuinely proud of, and he wanted everything perfect. My sister Carmen had volunteered to coordinate the entire event. At 32, she was everything Dad wanted in a child. Marketing director at a prestigious firm, married to a lawyer, living in the right neighborhood, driving the right car. She understood optics, presentation, success as performance. Me. I was the family disappointment. 29 years old, never married, no corporate job, no impressive title to drop at cocktail parties. I dropped out of business school 8 years ago to figure things out, which in family speak meant threw away his future. What they knew about my life could fit on an index card. I worked with cars somehow, lived in a modest apartment across town, kept to myself. What they didn't know was that I'd built something they couldn't even comprehend. It started small. After leaving school, I got a job at a struggling used car lot in East Sacramento. The owner, Mr. Gutierrez, was honest but terrible with business. Great cars, fair prices, but couldn't market his way out of a paper bag. Within 6 months, I was essentially running the place. I convinced him to let me try some new approaches. Better online presence, customer service focus, transparent pricing. Sales doubled, then tripled. Other dealers started asking what we were doing differently. That's when I realized I had a talent for this business. Not just selling cars, but understanding what people really wanted. Honest dealing, fair prices, and respect for their intelligence. Revolutionary concepts in the auto industry. Mr. Gutierrez offered to make me a partner when I turned 25. I counteroffered to buy him out entirely. He was ready to retire anyway, and I had a vision he couldn't see. Premier Auto Group started with that single lot. Now 4 years later, we own 12 dealerships across Northern California. Luxury cars, economy vehicles, certified pre-owned financing, service departments. Last year's revenue hit $47 million. The family knew none of this. They saw me leaving the house in work clothes, hands sometimes dirty from actually looking at engines, and assumed I was still the junior mechanic they'd imagined. I'd never corrected them. Their dismissal had become a kind of armor. Dad's retirement party was scheduled for Saturday evening at the Marriott downtown. 200 guests. Co-workers, family, friends from his golf club, neighbors. Carmen had been planning for months, coordinating with Dad's company on decorations, catering, speeches. "We need this to be elegant," she told me during one of our rare phone conversations. "Dad's worked his entire life for this moment. It needs to reflect his achievements." "Of course," I'd said. "How can I help?" There was a pause. "Well, we could use someone to coordinate parking. Make sure guests don't have to walk too far, help with the valet situation." Parking coordinator. At my own father's retirement party. "You want me to park cars?" "Michael, it's important work. First impressions matter. And you're comfortable around cars." The subtext was clear. "You're not polished enough for hosting duties, but you can handle manual labor." I should have said no. Should have explained that I own more cars than everyone at the party combined. Should have told her I employed 17 people who could handle parking coordination while blindfolded. Instead I said, "Sure, Carmen. I'll handle parking." Because sometimes you have to let people show you exactly who they are. Saturday evening arrived with typical October weather. Crisp, clear, perfect for an outdoor reception. The Marriott had done a beautiful job with the setup. Elegant lighting, professional catering, a banner reading celebrating Frank Torres' 38 years of dedicated service. I arrived early wearing black slacks and a white button-down shirt. Carmen had specifically requested valet-appropriate attire. She was coordinating with the hotel staff, wearing a stunning navy dress that probably cost more than most people's car payments. "Michael," she said, barely looking up from her clipboard. "The parking situation is under control, but we need someone to direct guests from the garage to the elevators. Can you handle that?" "Direct guests from parking to elevators," I repeated. "Exactly. Just be helpful, polite, don't get into long conversations. Tonight is about Dad, not whatever stories you might want to share. Whatever stories I might want to share. Like I was some embarrassing relative who might ramble about conspiracy theories or inappropriate jokes." Dad appeared, looking distinguished in his best suit. He'd lost 20 pounds for tonight, gotten a professional haircut, practiced his speech for weeks. Michael, he said, shaking my hand formally. Thanks for helping out. Carmen says you're handling the parking situation. Happy to help, Dad. Good man. Keep things running smoothly, okay? This is a big night. For the next hour, I directed guests from the parking garage to the elevator bank. Smiled politely as Dad's coworkers walked past in expensive suits, talking about quarterly reports and market conditions. Answered questions about bathroom locations and bar service. Carmen appeared periodically to check on things, each time with a new subtle criticism. Try to stand up straighter. Maybe don't engage guests in conversation unless they ask direct questions. Remember, professional appearance matters. By 8 o'clock, the reception was in full swing. 200 people enjoying premium open bar, gourmet appetizers, live jazz music. Dad was holding court near the head table, receiving congratulations and sharing war stories from his decades in manufacturing. I was still directing latecomers from parking, watching through the glass doors as my family celebrated without me. That's when Carmen appeared with her masterpiece. Michael, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. I have a special job for you. She handed me a small sign that read, Valet Parking, please see attendant. The hotel's valet service is overwhelmed, she explained. We need someone to help park cars for the last hour of arrivals. You're perfect for it. I looked at the sign, then at my sister's expectant face. You want me to actually park people's cars? It's just temporary. And honestly, valet suits you perfectly. You understand cars, you're comfortable with manual work. It's playing to your strengths. Playing to my strengths. Like I was a special needs child being given a task I could handle. She wasn't trying to be cruel. In Carmen's mind, she was being practical. Michael works with cars, therefore Michael should park cars. Simple delegation based on perceived capability. The fact that it was my father's retirement party, that I was his son, that this might be humiliating or inappropriate simply didn't register. Because in her worldview, I wasn't someone who could be humiliated by manual labor. I was someone for whom manual labor was appropriate. Okay, I said quietly. I'll park cars. Her smile was radiant. Perfect. You're such a good sport, Michael. For the next 40 minutes, I parked cars for my father's retirement party guests. BMWs, Mercedes, Autos, the occasional Porsche. Executives from Dad's company handing me their keys with polite smiles, tipping me $5 or $10 like I was hired help. Some recognized me as Frank's son and made awkward small talk. Good to see Frank's boy helping out. Nice that you're supporting your father like this. Honest work parking cars. Nothing wrong with service industry. Each comment was well-intentioned and absolutely humiliating. Through the glass doors I could see Dad at the podium beginning his retirement speech. Carmen stood nearby, beaming with pride at how smoothly everything was running. The perfect daughter coordinating the perfect event for the perfect father. I should have been inside. Should have been at the family table listening to Dad's speech, raising a toast to his achievements. Instead, I was outside in the parking garage holding strangers' car keys, missing my own father's moment because my sister had decided I wasn't worthy of attending as a guest. That's when I saw the banner truck pulling into the circular drive. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. A large truck with an extending boom arm was positioning itself across from the hotel entrance. The driver got out, began setting up equipment to hang something across the building's facade. Then I saw what they were unfurling. A massive banner, maybe 60 feet wide, white background with bold blue lettering. Congratulations Frank Torres on your retirement. With gratitude from Premier Auto Group. And below that in smaller but still clearly visible text, Michael Torres, owner and CEO. My heart stopped. I'd forgotten completely. 3 weeks ago, my marketing manager had asked about sponsorship opportunities for community events. I'd mentioned Dad's retirement party as something we might want to acknowledge. She'd asked if she should arrange something nice. Sure, I'd said, distracted by quarterly reports. Something tasteful. A banner or flowers or whatever you think appropriate. I'd forgotten because it seemed like a minor business expense. A small gesture for my father handled by staff not worth remembering. But now, as the banner stretched across the hotel's entire front facade, it was impossible to miss. Through the glass doors I could see the reception continuing. Dad still at the podium mid-speech. Guests listening politely, drinks in hand. Then someone near the windows noticed the banner truck. pointed outside. Others turned to look. The reaction was immediate and electric. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. People started walking toward the windows to get a better view. I could see Carmen's face through the glass. Confusion first, then disbelief, then something approaching panic as she processed what she was seeing. Dad stopped mid-sentence, confused by the sudden distraction. Followed everyone's gaze toward the windows. Toward the banner. Toward the name Michael Torres, owner and Sue, displayed in letters 6 feet tall across the hotel's facade. The silence inside was total. I walked inside still holding someone's Mercedes keys. The reception hall was frozen. 200 people staring between the banner outside and me standing in the doorway. Dad at the podium, his retirement speech forgotten, mouth slightly open. Carmen was the first to move. She rushed over, her face cycling through emotions I'd never seen before. "Michael," she whispered urgently. "What is that? What's happening?" "It's a banner," I said calmly. "From my company. Congratulating Dad on his retirement." "Your company?" Dad's voice came through the microphone, carrying across the silent room. "Michael? Son, what's going on?" I walked to the podium, still carrying the car keys. The crowd parted like I was radioactive. "Sorry, Dad. Didn't mean to interrupt your speech. My marketing team arranged a little tribute without telling me the timing." "Your marketing team?" His voice was small, confused. "Premier Auto Group," I said, gesturing toward the banner visible through the windows. "We sponsor community events. Thought your retirement qualified." The silence stretched. Someone's phone buzzed. Ice clinked in glasses. "Michael," Dad said slowly. "Premier Auto Group. You own that?" "Yes." "The dealership group?" "With the 12 locations. 13 as of last month. We acquired a BMW franchise in Modesto." Dad stared at me. Then at the banner. Then back at me. You're CEO of Premier Auto Group?" "Owner and CEO, yes." Carmen appeared at my elbow, her voice barely audible. "Michael, this isn't possible. You park cars. You work at a garage." "I own 12 dealerships," I corrected. 13 now. Last year's revenue was $47 million. The number hit the room like a physical force. Someone dropped a glass. Dad's company president, Mr. Henderson, stepped forward from the crowd. "Premier Auto Group? Michael, we buy our fleet vehicles from Premier. You're our account representative." "I don't handle individual accounts anymore," I said. "But yes, Henderson Manufacturing is one of our clients." Henderson looked like he'd seen a ghost. "The fleet contract is worth, good Lord, son, you're our biggest vendor after raw materials." Dad was gripping the podium like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "Michael, why didn't you tell us?" I looked around the room. 200 faces staring at me. Carmen's perfectly coordinated event completely derailed by reality. "You never asked," I said simply. What followed was chaos. Controlled, polite chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Dad's colleagues swarmed me with questions. How long had I owned the business? How had they not known? What was my background in automotive sales? Carmen stood frozen, clutching her clipboard like a life preserver. Mr. Henderson was particularly animated. "Michael, we've been working with Premier for 3 years. Your sales team never mentioned you were Frank's son." "I prefer to keep business and family separate," I said. "But the account size. This changes everything. Frank, do you realize your son is one of our major business partners?" Dad couldn't speak. Just kept staring at the banner, then at me, then back at the banner. Carmen finally found her voice. "This isn't real. Michael, if you owned car dealerships, we'd know. You'd have money. You'd live differently." "I do have money," I said patiently. "I just don't spend it the way you would." "But your apartment. Your clothes. You were parking cars 20 minutes ago. Because you asked me to." The simple truth of it hit her like a slap. She'd asked her millionaire brother to park cars at their father's retirement party because she'd assumed he was qualified for nothing else. Dad finally managed words. "Son, I need to understand this. You've been successful this whole time." "Yes." "For how long?" "About 4 years." "4 years," he repeated. "And you never said anything. Would it have changed how you treated me?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it. Carmen looked sick. Because we all knew the answer. Yes, it would have changed everything. They would have treated me differently, included me differently, respected me differently. But only because of money, not because I was worth respecting as a person. Michael, Dad said carefully, we always respected you. You asked me to park cars at your retirement party, Dad. That was just. Carmen thought. Carmen thought I was qualified to park cars but not to sit at the family table. And you agreed. The room was listening to every word. Dad's colleagues, his friends, everyone hearing our family dysfunction play out in real time. We should continue this conversation privately, Dad said. Should we? I asked. Because this public humiliation thing? Carmen planned it. You endorsed it. Seems fitting that the correction should be equally public. I turned to address the room. Sorry everyone. Didn't mean to interrupt the celebration. Dad, congratulations on your retirement. You've earned it. I started walking toward the exit. Michael, wait, Carmen called. We need to talk about this. I stopped, turned back. Do we? Because I think we've said everything that needs saying. But the business, the success. Why didn't you share this with us? Share what? The fact that I'm successful? Would that have changed anything about tonight? She didn't answer because she couldn't. We all knew I'd still be parking cars if the banner hadn't appeared. I have to go, I said. Still have someone's Mercedes keys. Dad and I have coffee now. Once a month, neutral location, no agenda. He asks about the business sometimes carefully like he's walking on glass. I share what feels comfortable. He retired well. Good pension, active social life, seems genuinely happy. The retirement party is never mentioned. Carmen and I don't speak. She sent one email 3 months ago, a long explanation about misunderstandings and different perspectives. I didn't respond. The business continues growing. We're expanding into Southern California, looking at locations in San Diego and Orange County. The team is excellent, the customers are happy, the numbers work. I still live in my modest apartment, still drive practical cars, still prefer substance over show. Money is a tool, not an identity. But respect? That should never have required a banner to earn. Dad's colleagues treat me differently now when we cross paths. Warmer, more interested, quick to share their own business challenges. It's exactly the problem in miniature. Respect based on perceived status rather than inherent worth. The people I work with daily, the customers who've been with us for years, my actual friends, they knew my worth before they knew my net worth. That's the real success. Everything else is just numbers on a balance sheet. Carmen called last week. Left a voicemail about a family birthday, suggested I might want to attend. No mention of parking duties. I haven't called back yet. Some lessons take time to stick.